Man, once again, it is Warfpo Wednesday here on Hump Day Warfpo Wednesday with the Art of Dreaming and your host, Dr. Michael Hemmingson.
Hey,
My first student is in the
Uh,
detailing the Ford in their parking lot.
can I be here? No, it hasn't started. Can I be here?
I hear some
Hello?
sound in the background there.
Yep. Hi.
Hi, I heard you talking to someone there. Okay, so my guest today is Dr. Suzanne Lie from, you're in Santa Monica or Redondo Beach?
Redondo Beach.
You're in Redondo Beach. We're going to be talking with Dr. Suzanne Lie about the Arcturians, the Arcturian Corridor, which is the title of one of her books that I found online, and multidimensional counseling. Dr. Lie is okay, actually, maybe you should talk about tell people what you do, so in case I get something wrong here.
No, ask me first. I don't have to think so hard.
Well, I'm looking at your website here. So it's Dr. Suzanne Lie is a gifted psychotherapist, teacher, author, and artist, specializing in helping others connect with their multidimensional selves, multidimensional counseling, spiritual psychotherapy, awakening your full potential.
Yeah.
So do you do hypnotherapy?
Yes, I do. Do hypnotherapy and a lot of guided imagery and that type of thing. Past life regression, all those kinds of out there things. That it took me a long time to get into a reality and get to a mental space where I could be who I really was and be who I really am.
And so I've read the book twice, the Arcturian Corridor, which in fact people out there, Dr. Lie has it as a free PDF is how I found it. But if you need a physical book, you could purchase it as a book as well. So the Arcturian Corridor, it reads as if it was channeled to you, right?
Right. Yeah, it's some of the information that I've gotten from the Arcturians that I've been in communication with since about 94, I guess it is, 93, 94.
And this was part of this Arcturian Corridor that opened up in 2002, apparently.
Right. It also opened up earlier, quite a long time, and that's the first time. I actually wrote that twice. The first one is very different because I was in a much different place in my life, and it was kind of like almost like a personal journal of my awakening. And then, so that must have been, I don't know, in the 80s or something. Maybe it was in the 90s. Who knows? Time's gone, so no concept of time. And this one here is after I had been communicating with the Arcturians for quite a while. And so I was able to get the information more. Because when we communicate with beings that resonate to higher frequencies, and the Arcturians resonate to a very, very high frequency, we get the information in light language. So the light language kind of comes into our minds in a flash of light, and then we have to translate it. And so if they're trying to tell me something and I don't know what they're trying to tell me, then I go on the internet and I search around and I educate myself, because if I don't have that concept or those words in my brain, then it's difficult for me to translate that information. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, completely.
Yeah. So I'm writing and researching all the time, and the Arcturians are talking to a lot of people at this time. So there's a lot of different people that are channeling. To me, channeling is kind of an old-fashioned term, because in reality, I'm just speaking with the really high frequency of my multidimensional self. And do you want me to explain what that is for people that don't know what the heck I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So, well, we're fully aware that we have a 3D body, and we're pretty sure we have a 4D body because we go to sleep and we have dreams and remember those dreams, and that sometimes feels like a very real reality. So we know we got a 3D, which encompasses 1, 2, and 3. And we know we have a 4D body, but we have much higher frequencies of experience. But the 1 through the 4th is kind of in one category in which there is polarity and limitation and separation and all those things that we find in our physical world. But then after the 4th dimension, there's what they call the Great Void. And this is like an area in our consciousness. And it's a place to kind of let go of our old way of thinking, because when we move into the 5th, 6th, 7th up dimensions, it's a very different kind of reality. For one thing, time doesn't travel like we're used to having time travel, and we are able to hold multiple versions of reality within our mind. And just like now, what we think about, eventually we might be able to create. But in the 5th dimension and beyond, if you think about it, it's like right there. So we need to, part of that time in between is we need to learn to have some mastery over our thoughts and our emotions, because we can think about something that's really scary and get ourselves all in a tizzy, but it won't happen. Maybe if we thought about it, love it happen in a couple of years. But in the 5th dimension and up, if you think about something, it's right there. And if it's like a fearful thing, it will kick you out of the 5th dimension, because the 5th dimension doesn't really have fear. It's not polarized. So therefore, it is. But the isness is based on more unconditional love and unity consciousness.
So basically, in the 5th dimension, it's you just manifest whatever you think of. You manifest it, or you
Right.
travel.
Yeah, right. And then you can travel interdimensionally. We can do that now if we can meditate, get our consciousness to a high enough state. We can travel around. But when we're doing it while we still have a body, we think, oh, wow, that was a cool little image. But once you're in the 5th dimension, you know that that's real, that you're really in a real place and you really are traveling to that place. But you can hold more than one reality in your consciousness at a time. So you can go to one place and still stay at the other place. So it's a whole different kind of thinking. It's like a multidimensional thinking. You don't think the same. You don't think in a straight line. Energy doesn't travel in a straight line. Energy travels in circles. And so our thinking moves in circles instead of in a straight line.
Now, can you in the 5D? Can you explore different timelines, or?
Yes, you can. Uh-huh.
So you can explore, like, well, if what my life would have been like if I had married this person that I didn't marry, or.
Well, the thing is, when you're in the 5th dimension and beyond, when you're not bound by time as we know it, you don't really have past, present, and future. You just have now. So you could preview your lower frequency lives and look and see, oh, well, if I'd have married this person, then I would have gone on this whole timeline, this whole life stream of all this happening. But because I didn't marry that person, then I went on to this whole time stream and that whole life. Because we don't just have this life. We have many parallel lives that are happening. And we just aren't aware of them. But they're there. Even science knows that. I even saw that in a scientific journal. They talked about parallel lives. So a lot of these concepts are becoming more common now because of quantum physics.
There's this guy, and actually he's in Los Angeles too. I think it's Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Who have you heard of him?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure.
He's written a few books, and he does counseling as well. That through various forms of meditation, you could shift your consciousness to a parallel life, maybe the more ideal life. I always got kind of confused by that, but I actually have his book, but I haven't really looked into it.
That's an interesting concept. Yeah, I'm usually thinking just to get out of here completely. Just move on up to the fifth, forget all this nonsense. But yeah, you can. Because it is you. They're all you. And a lot of, I'm a big Star Trek fan, and so a lot of the Star Treks, I've been kind of going over them all on Netflix so I can see it at the beginning and looking at them now in close, time after time. Those writers were really genius because a lot of the things that they were writing about, oh, isn't this a cool story, is stuff that's all part of quantum physics. But Roddenberry, he was in connection with the galactic. So, I guess he got a team of really imaginative and, forward-thinking people. And then they kept that going pretty much of the time. But in one of them, I think it was the Deep Space Nine, they had the parallel reality that was running at the same time. So they would go back and forth between the two realities, which you could do if you had the technology. Of course, in that they had the technology, or if you had the mental facility to be able to do it.
Right, the mirror universe, the alternate universe where the good guys are the bad guys and vice versa.
Yeah, right.
I think they do that in all the series, because it started off with the original Star Trek. But I've heard several people say that Roddenberry was influenced by an actual Federation out there to try to convey what it's like.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a book on Star Trek, sort of a critical media studies book on the original series, so I know all these. I even did a show on Star Trek too.
Oh, really?
My shows,
well,
yeah.
I'm a Trekkie from way back. I love Star Trek. And because there's a lot of truth hidden in there, and a lot of sci-fi books it's hidden in there. Even then, the Stargate SG-1, the first part, it kind of degraded at the end, but a lot of that stuff was true. I mean, we do have Stargates. There's like 50 operational Stargates on the planet at this time.
Yeah, have you noticed? In the Stargate, like every 100th episode, 100, 200, they have the when they actually talk about a TV show based on Stargate, and sort of as like an in joke, I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't.
In the series, they're in the series. There's actually a TV show, a fictional TV show.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, that was
based on it's sort of like a way to tell the people what's going on without really telling them.
Tell the people, right? Exactly. Yeah. But I don't think many people got it back then. So I think more people are getting it now. People's consciousness is really expanding, so they're able to encompass ideas that are very different from what they were spoon-fed in, as a child, and from, other sources.
So let's talk about the Arcturians and who they are. I've been doing a number of shows like focused on, like I've done one on the Pleiadians, just trying to go over the lore and who they are. So the Arcturians are now, are they in the seventh or the ninth dimension? I've heard both.
Well, what I heard from them is that they say that they are resonating to the 8th through the 10th dimension. And once you get above the 8th dimension, there's not really a lot of form. And so you don't so much resonate to one dimension, you kind of resonate to a spectrum of dimensions. But all the dimensions are moving up an octave. So they'll be moving up to the 11th, 12th when we move up to the 5th, 6th, 7th.
And they're a pretty old race, right?
Yeah, they're actually, I think, one of the most ancient of all of the races. And I don't have a lot of facts that I could give you about They have told me some things, and I've read some things, but they're so old that they don't really even know how old they are. Much more long before countable time. I think that they were in on the process of maybe creating Earth, definitely the first beings to be here. So they're very ancient. And I work with the group mind, and instead of like some people will have an Arcturian name, with me they just always say we, and it's the group mind, and that's what I've always worked with or talked to.
Now, the group mind, so they don't have a physical form?
They can take one on. They're not. It's very difficult for them. Not difficult, but immensely uncomfortable to take on a form like this resonance of form. So generally, if someone's going to perceive them, they have to be in a higher state of consciousness. But I have had a couple of times where I did perceive them in a kind of vaguely humanoid form, and they wear forms like we wear clothes. So they will appear to people in whatever form that person is going to be most comfortable with, because they don't want to frighten people.
Okay. Well, I've several people, I look online and their renditions of Arcturians are these tall, blue humanoid beings. Yet they also seem to look like what Alex Collier, who's a contactee with the Andromedans, he says the Andromedans look exactly the same.
Right. I've never had that experience of them. When I've seen a form of them, it's kind of like looking at a cloud of light, and it kind of has a head and kind of has arms and kind of has a body and kind of has legs. And sometimes I'll get eyes, and they usually are blue eyes, but that's just probably because of I've heard this before, that a lot of higher beings have blue because that's the color of the ray. That's the ray of God, the first ray. And so it's supposed to, blue means a message from God beings. And so I think that's why they have blue eyes in some extent. And it's more just a frequency of light than the color of your actual eyeball, because they don't have actual eyeballs. But sometimes I'll see like energy shooting out from their hands. But I've seen some of those pictures, and I don't relate to any of them. For one thing, they usually have clothes and hair, and they look very human. And I have never experienced them looking human.
Okay, so if they don't have bodies, do they have lifespans, or are they
infinite?
Infinite? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. But if they get bored, they enter humans to like. There's actually not that the whole being enters the human. For one thing, their frequency would pretty much tap out the human body. It'd be like fry us, because the frequency is far too high. But they'll send down like a life spark into certain people, and those are usually people. See, with the multidimensional self, we don't just go up to like the fourth dimension. We go on, and we go all the way to source. So, and as we go into higher and higher frequencies, we move out of the time and the space and the separation and the limitation and form. And so I am Arcturian. That is who I am. I identify myself more as being an Arcturian than being a human. I never really did buy human too well. Before I was a Venusian or I was a fairy, and that was true as well. Of course, I never would have said that because I would have been crazy for sure. But now we can say these kinds of things. I mean, and yes, I am wearing a human body right now, and yes, I have been human this whole life. But the part of me that's the real me that's inside of me is like my ancient heritage is of, Arcturian nature, and I've actually seen and gone through a lot of my other higher realities and a lot of Palladian. I've been Palladian as well, and Sirius C and Taurus, and even a Draconian. So, but that's not just me; it's everybody. It's just not everybody knows that.
So you're saying that we were all at one point a lizard person,
Well, we all have lizard DNA. We have our lizard brain.
right?
So yeah, we do have some lizard DNA, and that was put in there long, long ago. Have you heard about the Sitchkin novels? You probably have.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anunnaki and all of that.
Right.
So we were genetically engineered to do that, and that's how we got to such strong polarities. And that lizard DNA is not very good because lizards are very much power over. They aren't reared in love. They're hatched out, and whichever lizards can eat their brothers and sisters quicker to be stronger are the lizards that survive to make more lizards. So hence you see how that society goes.
I have a question here from the chat room. It says, what history do you have on the Arcturian graduation into fourth and seventh dimension? I think he means like, what were they like? What were they doing when they were 3D beings?
I have no idea. I've never asked them about that. It's so far away, it's not even a conception. To the beings that I've spoken with, they always came to me as a group form. What I've gotten a little bit is that, and I don't know, I wouldn't even begin to know what a timeline is, except for millions and millions and millions, but when they did have a form and they lived on one of the planets around the star of Arcturus, they lived in pods, kind of like dolphins. They call them pods, and they lived in family units of like 39 to 40 people. And that pod was very close and intimate. And let me see, there's something else that I got. They lived in, and they perceive that being a planetary being is like being in the hatchery. So as long as you have a body and you actually have an individual body and you live on an individual planet, this is like the hatchery. And then as you go through stages of ascension, you ascend beyond being a planetary being. And then you move into what they did when they ascended beyond being a planetary being. They took to the skies, which is what I've heard most societies do. They get to a point that they evolve beyond living in a planet, and then they create huge ships, and they travel through the universe and some multiverse. The Andromedans are a different universe, and they travel back and forth all the time. And so then their reality is within their ships. And recently I've been hearing a lot, they've been channeling with me a lot about the mothership. And the mothership is huge. It has to be outside of any solar system because it would disturb the magnetic fields of the planets. It's as big as a planet. It's huge. So the ships we see are like scout ships. And that's where they live. And they have huge hollow suites where they can create anything they want to create, any kind of reality they want. And do you want me to tell you a little about what the Arcturian Corridor is?
Yes, please.
Well, the Arcturian Corridor, through there, I have recently received some things about the Arcturian Ascension, about how the Arcturian corridor was created, that their planet virtually created a corridor, became a planet of Stargate, so to speak. And so within these Stargates, they could travel to other worlds, and then eventually they did not come back to the planet. That was like, yesterday's news to them. But this concept of a corridor through which, and so a corridor through which you can move through these different frequencies of reality. It's almost like a birth canal. So while you are vulnerable and you're moving from, third, fourth, fifth dimension, it's kind of like being born, because you're having to let go and feel, conscious, like naked, because we're letting go of what we have to embrace something new. And so within that time, for a while, we're nothing. And so the corridor is like a protective, like a huge womb. And whenever beings come into third and fourth dimensional realities, they come into the corridor. And when beings leave, they go out through the corridor. And when planets can go through, galaxies can go through, there isn't really in these dimensions, there isn't a concept of size or time or distance. That is something, we know that time and size, that's all in relation to the planet that you happen to live on. So when you're living in outer space, there is no planet to be in relation to. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. So when you said there are ships, the scout ships or whatever, what do their ships look like?
Well, there's bunches of different ships, but the ones that I have seen in my imagination are round. Now the mothership is like a planet, and it is.
And we're back with the Art of Dreaming here at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where you don't need to expect us because we are already here. And my guest tonight is Dr. Suzanne Lie. And we've been talking about the Arcturians. You're still with me there, Susan?
Hello.
There you are. Okay.
I'm here.
Now I forgot. Where did we leave off? We were talking about, the ships. A lot of people have been seeing these sort of mothership, planetoid ship-looking things that floating around in orbit by the sun. There's been talk about that they might be the Arcturians or the Andromedans or the Pleiadians, that they're doing something trying to fix the sun. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard specifically about them doing something with the sun, but it seems to me something that would be very likely to do. I mean, they would be able to get close to the sun. So they might be trying to work with the energy field, because the higher frequency of light that's coming from the galactic center then goes into the great central sun, and then from there it goes into the suns of each of the solar systems. And so, as we know, the sun's been very active. So they have, the galactics have, we would probably be in really big trouble if it wasn't for the galactics. For one thing, they turned off all the nuclear switches. So they that's like it, no more. No more nuclear war. They got permission from the powers that be, because some of the nuclear stuff that they were doing was so bad that they actually killed beings in like the fourth dimension. So it was like not okay. And Earth has been on quarantine because it's been far too violent. And besides, we're very germy. So that's the real reason why we haven't been going all these places that supposedly we were going to be. We should have been going to if we were back at the moon back, 40 years ago, something. And then we just stopped. We stopped everything. A couple of going around, in the Challengers. It's like, wait. But, that's a whole different topic. So I'll just wait and see if we want to go there or not.
Okay. Well, I've heard the same from various people about that they switched off all the nuclear bombs, and
Yeah.
that's why we really haven't had any nuclear strikes because the Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all the testings. That beings in the fourth dimension were getting killed, and
Yeah, and they switched off a lot of the HARP activity too, because
really,
that's just plain dirty to do that. So they've been doing a lot of as much fixing as possible, because it is a free world planet, and so we do have the right to destroy ourselves. Except we don't really, because Earth is a very, very special planet. I mean, there are very few planets that are as diverse as Earth, that has so many different kinds of nature, so many different kinds of life, so many different kinds of beings. And then also, Earth is much older. I mean, we have been so amazingly lied to. I don't even know what's going to happen with people. Well, I think by the time people are at the frequency where they can take the truth, they'll just say, oh, yeah, well, of course I knew that. So it probably won't be a problem at all. But there's been societies way, way back. And they have all, like the Palladians had a stint here, and Earth has been like a schoolroom. And so the Palladians were here, and they almost off the planets, a couple planets themselves. And I'm not sure if the Arcturians were very helpful with Gaia. The Syrians were here, and they did a lot of genetic engineering, which really was not cool. And that Stargate and the little thing that went in people's spine, that was the ancient Syrian thing, and genetic engineering and stuff. So these other societies came here when they were children, like this Earth has been a child state, and did their damage, and then they went off and created their own worlds and ascended. And so they want to come back and help Mom, because, Earth was their mother too. And so they're not going to let this society blow up the planet, because it's their mother too. And we are their descendants. And so a lot of these nasty behaviors that we learned from them, from the, genetic heritage that we were given from their messing around with our genes and stuff. So, but the Arcturians have been assisting Gaia for a very long time, and there's like the Arcturians and the Palladians have worked together a lot, and Palladians and the Syrians, and the Arcturians and the Syrians, and so those three have been working together with Gaia for a very, very long time to assist.
there's a Palladian contactee in Florida. He's a Cuban, fairly well known in certain circles. His name is Adrian. And he claims that the Palladians, sometime like in the mid 90s, had decided to give up on Earth because every time they tried to help with something, that had a negative karmic backlash, and the people that they were choosing, like Billy Meyer and such, weren't doing what they asked them to do. And so they decided to just give up, and the Arcturians said, "No, we'll step in." But they brought the Palladians back. But it was at that point in the mid '90s that the crop circles had started to get a lot more intricate, and that the Arcturians are behind those crop circles.
That's what I've heard too, that the Arcturians are behind the crop circles.
And Adrian says, there's some videos out there where you see the white orbs flying around, creating the crop circles. That these are these interdimensional Arcturian ships that, although they're in our dimension, they look like just a round orb. If you were to go inside of it, this thing would be miles long.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's multidimensional, so we just see the third dimensional bit of it. Like with ourselves, we're like if you look at a pencil, we would be where the lead is. At the little bit of lead that sticks out so you could write. Now there's this whole big pencil. So you would see just like that third dimensional version of it. Once you go inside, it goes on, it's probably a corridor. And a corridor is like a portal, which is an opening into and through all these different dimensions of reality, frequencies slash dimensions of reality. So, and there's that's what a lot of their star travel is. They don't like get it in, turn on the engine and travel for 100 years to get someplace. They just go in a corridor and zip, they're there.
Well, that's takes a lot of time out of the travel, I guess.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, back in the 90s, I got a channel from Maitreya, which is, she is I have two Pleiadians that I've worked with the Maitreya and Maitreya, female version of, male version of. And I remember this was way back in the early 90s, and she said that there was all the things that were going to happen, and about how there would be diseases that people could never understand what they were, and all this stuff. And I never posted it. It's like, oh no, this is like too controversial, And even when I started the site, it started off very psychological. It gradually built up to the weird stuff, I kind of tracked my path of what made me just so I could stay sane with all these things going on inside. But those things all happened, So, and it's not so much that they predicted that they could see beyond time. So they could just open the book and go to the final page and say, according to this timeline, if you take this version of the book, this is where it goes. But if you take this version of the book, this is where it goes. So we dodged the bullet on World War III quite a few times, because the Illuminati has been really working on making that one happen, but we have managed to stay out of that. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I know that George Bush had attempted to start it up.
Oh yeah,
a couple of times, and it got either blocked by some generals in the Pentagon or blocked by the Pleiadians or whoever.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So the Galactics got permission from powers that be to stop nuclear events a while back. I've heard from several people that about 70 years ago, Gaia was in such bad shape that she was on the verge of death. And that's when a lot of the Galactics came in and started really assisting. They've been here all along, since, long before. In fact, the Draconians were like the dinosaurs. So, so they have been around. They have been helping us. People say, oh, why don't they help us? Well, they do help us, but we're not very good at helping ourselves. So that's the problem.
The Pleiadians you said you had contact with, was that physical contact or
no, nothing physical, just all in my mind.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you don't know if they were the tall blonde ones or?
No, those are definitely the tall blonde ones. So I could see them because they have a form. Definitely tall blonde. And I even drew pictures of them and stuff. So but that light and blonde hair and blue eyes and light skin and yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've had a couple of encounters with them. The first one was in Sedona. They just kind of walked by me. But,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was over at Bell Rock. They just kind of were walking quickly along and minding their own business, but they were obviously extraterrestrials.
That's cool.
Yeah, the Bell Rock vortex is apparently connected to their system, and they could travel back and forth through that way. But the other one named Naya that I knew a couple years ago, she actually wasn't tall and blonde. She was 5'5" with brown hair, and she told me that they're not all tall and blonde. They're on the three worlds that they live on. She said mostly the spacefaring ones are the tall blonde ones, and the more scientific and artistic ones who are. I mean, she said they're all they're all different, just like us.
Right. They are, and then also I'm sure that the societies mix and intermarry. But I did have a vision one time of being on the Pleiades, where it was like flying over, looking down, and they they like nature. They don't create density of population.
Right.
And so they have, there's like a central temple type, not a religious temple, but and what I saw is that the homes were almost like if you were to look at like big geodes of crystal, and the biggest geode of crystal would be like the center of that particular city, and then there was all this nature around, and then homes would be in little areas with wooded areas all around, and geodes, and that when you're inside the when you're inside the house, you could have the walls be opaque or have them be translucent, and you could open it up to see the sky, or you could close it, or the homes are very malleable and mutable with your thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, I've interviewed a couple times this gentleman named Bernie Mendez, who he claims he was a liaison for Richard Nixon. He apparently gave reports to Nixon about the various aliens that the government was in contact with, and he said that the Pleiadians, or the Nordics, he called them the Nordics, had taken him to their home world and said, that they lived very Spartan, very minimal, no big cities, everything spread out, a lot of farms and stuff like that.
And I think there's a Nordic, isn't there? Or maybe it's the whites that aren't really Palladian, or maybe they're partly Palladian.
There's several Palladian factions. They kind of split off. They were actually originally called the Lyrans, who were like 30, 50 feet tall. And when they came to Earth, they were worshipped as gods.
Right.
But yeah, there's a variety of the Nordic types out there. Some with not the best agenda in mind for us, and some with, according to various people. But yeah, Bernie was saying that they live very simply and peacefully, no big cities, no pollution.
They don't need that.
At most, maybe half a billion people per planet.
Right, that's what I've heard too. So that'll be nice.
and vegetarian too. So
yeah,
they don't eat animals. Well, they have like, I guess they have like like the fake meat. If they want some like that flavor. But actually, I heard they don't eat that much. They don't need to eat that much.
Right. It depends on the frequency that they resonate to. Once they're really like fifth dimensional, then they just eat light.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Like in the
PhD,
Well, now is it? Do you know, like in the fifth dimension? I've heard we have like these different bodies. They're more crystalline based, tall, lighter, and like all you need to eat is like maybe a pear or something a day, or
right. Yeah, you don't really need to sleep or much unless you want to grok it. Remember Stranger in a Strange Land?
Oh yeah, Robert Heinlein.
Yeah, where he would go through all the 50 books and then he'd lay down and grok it all. So that's probably the sleep was for grokking purposes, to integrate everything and put it all together.
Yeah, they sleep like maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, or whatever their day is.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that kind of reality. That feels good to me.
So are we moving in that direction here with the frequencies that we're going to start ascending into that fifth dimension?
Well, that is our hope and promise, isn't it? But I think for a lot of us that are really have done the work, in terms of, purifying ourselves and releasing our fears and, moving through all the things that we need to move through to get to a higher state of consciousness, have lives that are pretty fifth dimensional. I mean, my life is pretty fifth dimensional. I mean, I have a job that I love, and an office that I love, and a house that I love, and a yard that I love, and I do what I love, and I don't fly in planes much. I don't drive in traffic. So I think that what happens is that in preparation for this, we kind of make it here. We build it here. And when our minds are going all these amazing places, then, not that instead of travel, because I love traveling, but since 9/11, I don't like to fly. It feels like you're going into a concentration camp, but they make you go.
All right.
LAX. It's just horrible. I just can't participate in that anymore. It's just a horrible lie. I can't live that lie. But anyway, I think as we really bring this into our physical life, then the jump from where we are to where we're going isn't that big. It's just we just expand it. So in other words, we create our own fifth-dimensional life, which means that we have to, really work a lot on living with unconditional love, and it's kind of difficult because as your consciousness gets to that rate, you begin to really know a lot of things, and you know about all the hidden patterns and all the stuff that's going on, and so then that becomes a challenge to not, because we need to give these people unconditional love, because being angry with them or fighting them, that just feeds the dragon. And the thing that that will change our world is that, we give to them what we got in order for us to get to this place of, living kind of in peace and happiness. And the more of us that do that, and the more we do that, that will become more normal. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really. I know there's not going to be a disaster. I mean, I think there might be a disaster for people that really want to create that, because as we move into the higher worlds, you can't create what you want. So if you want to create that, then you could, but I certainly don't want that. But when I ask the Arcturians and such, they say, we don't know. You haven't created it yet. So they give it back to us. This is our ascension. They're helping us. It's like they are setting the stage, but we are writing the play. And that has to be our responsibility, because we're supposed to be the most evolved species on this planet, which of course we aren't, but probably the whales are, and the dolphins.
The dolphins. Yeah, my understanding is the whales and dolphins aren't natural to this planet, indigenous. That they come here to work out their karma, because whatever part of the galaxy they're in, there is no karma.
Well, I think they're from, what I heard is they're from Sirius C.
Okay.
A water planet, and it's been ascended. Sirius B and Sirius C are ascended. That's why you don't see them very well. But Sirius A, you could still see that did not ascend. And then I also heard, I just read this someplace, but it clicked in like it was real, that the Anunnaki, Nibiru was a planet of Sirius C that didn't ascend. And so it's been kind of a rogue planet. And it's coming into our sphere now. So, because it has that whole different elliptical, it comes in from a whole different angle.
Right. Every, 3,600 years, something like that?
Yeah, quite a lot of years in between. So, but it's coming in now.
And it's inhabited by the Anunnaki or some race?
Right. Uh-huh. And when they did a lot of nonsense. And that's what Sitchin, that's what he wrote about. What happened. How many books did he write? 7, 11, something?
Right. Yeah, I think 11.
11, yeah. So he was writing about them, and he just has facts and facts and facts and facts. So it is a true thing. But then they completely disappeared for large periods of time, so people forget about them. But they're back now.
So when they show up, are they gonna? And your host still is Michael Hemmingson, aka Worf Poe, aka Dr. H, Papa Hem, and all those other good names. And this is The Art of Dreaming here at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Just a reminder that this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is the Alchemy event, and been moved from West LA to Irvine at the Temple of Light. It'll be 3 days of lectures, healing frequencies, healing classes, and stuff like that. We'll be there. I'll be there with Jason Brentwood and Lorian Fenton. We'll have the Revolution Radio table set up in the vendor room, broadcasting live video stream interviewing the various speakers there. So I'll be there probably Saturday and Sunday, and Jason and Lorraine will be there on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so we get back to our guest, Dr. Suzanne Lie. We've been talking about the Arcturians and multidimensional living and consciousness and other ETs out there. And I forgot where we left off there, Sue.
I kind of forgot too.
So the Arcturians, do they have genders? Do they procreate once they're up in that higher realm?
No, they don't have genders. They don't procreate. They create. They're part of the Elohim family, the holders of form.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very involved in creation. But they will, just like we might go to a closet and decide, well, I'm going to wear this outfit or that outfit, they can create any kind of form that they desire to wear, or if they are interacting with someone that is attached to a certain form, or that form would make them feel secure, then they're happy to put that form on. But then they'll go home, just like go home and take off our suit and just chill in something comfortable. They'll take off their form and chill in being formless and being, pure consciousness. And there might be Arcturians that choose to wear forms more often, but that's not the ones that I've been in communication with.
Now, are they involved in the war with the Draconians, the way the say like the Galactic Federation is?
Are they involved with the war with the Draconians?
Yeah, isn't there a war going on?
Well, see, that's where you get into that whole parallel reality thing. I think probably in some parallel reality, I've heard in some parallel reality that there is that. I have also heard, and this is a reality that I want to live in, that war ended quite a while back, and that the service to self beings kind of had to get their stuff together or leave, and that a lot of those beings have kind of been kicked out of the of this galaxy, and that now there are even Draconians that are ascended, and I've met some Draconians that are ascended. So I've heard about that war, but I've also heard that there isn't a war. So since I kind of have in my mind and always have had, because I kind of forgot to forget, so I remembered all my other lives, past lives. So I just choose to pick the ones that I want to live in. I don't want to live in a reality that has a galactic war. And I know that I have a choice to not live there, so I don't want to live there. And the Draconians they have a lot of good traits. We don't really need the good guys and the bad guys. That's a very third, fourth dimensional way of thinking. So that's a polarized form. And different doesn't have to be better or worse, but they have an immense, wonderful sense of humor, hugely, hugely intelligent. And, they have nice ones too. I haven't met any of the negative ones. I remember on a life I had on Antares, where I was a member of the Galactic War back when and was taken captive, and there's a whole big long storyline around that. But that was very long ago.
So what's Antares? Who are they? I've heard of them, but I don't know exactly who.
Well, Antares is a huge planet. Have you ever seen that scale where they show the different planets?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a little freckle next to Antares. What I got, I got, this was during the Galactic War, and they were kind of like the Marines. And they're very tall, very big, kind of redheaded. And if you were to say, okay, who are the Antarian ancestors on Earth, it would be like the Scottish people. They don't like Earth too much, so they don't have a lot to do with it. But they were a warrior class, and what I got is that they were a multidimensional reality that was just a part of their world, and they would breed, and then they would have their children. Just let me turn that off.
Okay, I was wondering what that was.
All right, yeah.
MK ultrasound.
I was in the other room, and then my husband came home, so that's
okay.
heard me talking to. So I had all those phones turned off, and then this one wasn't turned off. So they would have their children, but when they had their children, it would be kind of like when people have children on Venus, that instead of having sex and being pregnant, they go up into the higher frequencies of the seventh of the oversoul frequency, and they invite a soul. They say, is there a soul that would like to have the experience of life? And we, male and female, and they have to study. It's a great honor to be a parent, and the male and female have to go through many years of temple study together and individually to get that honor, and they have to learn to raise their consciousness to that frequency, and Venus as well. And then that soul says, okay, and then the parents kind of protect that soul and pull it down through the frequencies, and then they raise the child in like the fourth, fifth dimension. And then it's a warrioristic society, so everyone, male and female, they put like 20 years at that time into having the battle, which was the Great Galactic War. And then if they survive that at that time, then they would come back out, and then they would choose if they just wanted to live in the lower frequencies, if they wanted to join the priesthood or have children. But it was unknown that there was all of these dimensions. But there was like the social obligation was to help with the Galactic War, so everybody put that time in.
Of my Pleiadian contact, she said something similar that there's two ways to create children in their world, similar to that way of contacting a soul and sort of making a body using their energy for it, or if they want to do it the old-fashioned way.
Right.
since they live 1,000 years, apparently the women will want to try it at least once.
Right, exactly. And, a lot of aging is because our life here is so hard, because we replace all the cells in our body every 7 years. Every 7 years, we've got a brand new body. And so a lot of the aging is the work and the worry, because the Lemurians that are living in inner Earth, they don't age. Some of them are like 20,000 years old. And supposedly as we move into the fifth dimension, we start aging backwards. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Right. Speaking of Lemurians, have you heard of the Lemurian Foundation that's in Ramona, California? So more down by San Diego. It's in the sort of mountainy area.
Yeah, I could see why they would have it there, because I bet you there's a portal to Lemuria's there, because they are in a lot of these. This was Lemuria. Everything west of the San Andreas Fault was Lemuria.
Right, like in Catalina Island and stuff like that.
Right, Catalina Island, and yeah.
Well, as you drive out there, getting near the rural country town of Ramona, you'll see on the highway Lemurian Foundation, and it drives up into a mountain, and a small mountain or hill or whatever, and it looks like a pretty big building. Now, I've never been there, but I'm told to join the Lemurian Foundation, you have to prove to them that you remember some of your past lives of Lemuria. And this Lemuria Fellowship Foundation, or whatever it's called, they're really active in the Ramona community. They've got their own free medical clinics, which the medical practice is based on some ancient Lemurian medical practices. There's members on the school board, and they press forward to sort of a higher educational Lemurian sort of way. And it's kind of weird because Ramona is kind of like a cowboy town, you know.
Right. Wow. Right. That's kind of like Mount Shasta is another kind of open portal to Lemuria.
Right.
But the Lemurians are supposed to be coming up as the galactics are landing, so we'll be getting it from both sides. That's fun. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Well, so am I. So when's it supposed to happen?
I don't know. I mean, time is an illusion.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Okay, we're back on air.
I had to take a quick trip down to Lemuria.
Okay.
But see, I'm free of time, so I just came. I actually been there for 20 years, but I came back a second before I left.
Like you always time travel too as well.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Getting a strange echo on my side.
Oh, I don't hear it here.
Oh, well, I'll just ignore it. So, we were talking about Lemurians.
Yes, I think you were asking me a question, right?
So did you have a past life in Lemuria? Is that what you were saying that you remember?
Oh, actually, I had an experience because this summer I had this really strong feeling that I had to find Lemuria. So I thought I was going to go to Mount Shasta, but it turned out that it was really, really hot in Mount Shasta, and my husband didn't want to drive there. So we kind of went up the coast, and then we went inland, and then we ended up at Mount Rainier. And have you ever been to Mount Rainier? It's really an amazing place. That's in Washington.
No, I've never been there.
Really, really powerful. And we were staying at a little place that was like a cabin, tiny little cabin. And so one day, just out of nowhere, I was just meditating, and just for nowhere, I got taken to Lemuria. And the meditation started. I was just meditating normally, and then suddenly I was going through these tunnels, and I was going really, really fast. And I was going through all these tunnels, and then I woke up, and I was like a young man, and I was just waking up, and there was this big long table, and my father was on the other side fixing food, and he said, "Oh, you're awake." And then he said, "Oh, you've brought a visitor." So this young Lemurian man, he serves as a portal. And so then so I kind of stepped out, and I was there, and they asked me if I'd like to put my form on so I could see what I look like. And he said, "You're just in time because we're having our community meal." And then this wooden table, it was like a multi-dimensional table, in that you could see it as like a regular sized table, or it just kind of went on like forever. You could hardly even see the end of it. And people could choose to have like a private conversation, and it would be just private, or it could be more communal and everyone would talk. And so I sat down at the table, and it was such warm camaraderie, and everybody, it was a very simple life. It was just like a wooden table, and they wore like comfortable clothes, and they all ate together, and we had some conversation. And then this one particular woman, female Lemurian, was talking to me a bit, and then she said, "Oh, you're getting ready to leave." And so she stood up, and then everyone got quiet. And she said, "Our guest is about to leave. Can you please all send her unconditional love?" And so everyone faced me and sent unconditional love. It was, wow. I mean, total blissful. And then I woke up, and it was, wow, it was totally amazing. I was a complete surprise. But so I guess I was in Lemuria.
You had mentioned you had met some ascended Draconians, Dracs. Was that in person or or psychically?
Psychically.
Okay.
I've seen some people that I'm sure were Drax. I mean, you could tell their neck was not like a human neck or whatever, And I hear that a lot of the Illuminati are the Drax, no, that was all within my inner world, which is very real to me because it's been there my whole life. So, and that was very often the world of my choice. So that's why I had to get a PhD in psychology, just to make sure that I was okay.
Right. Okay. Well, my PhD is in a cultural anthropology. So.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing.
I could,
psychology. I'm sure I would have picked that. I love anthropology.
Well, this is cultural. More. I did my dissertation on sex workers in Tijuana and their culture. The whole
really?
kind of culture down there. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Cultural anthropology has a broad spectrum. It's probably more like sociology than.
Yeah.
So have you had any actual physical encounters with any, except seeing people who were probably reptilians?
Well, I haven't. I mean, in terms of in my physical body, have I physically met a physical person?
Or an ET, yeah.
No, I wouldn't say so.
And you can never tell who's walking around, who's
can't
really
around. I mean, I've had some experiences where I thought, oh, now that person is a this or that person is a that, but I don't know that. And I wouldn't go up to them. Oh, by the way, you look like a Palladian. Are you a Palladian?
That's what I did in Sedona.
Really?
Yeah, when they were walking away, I was like, hey, Palladians, come back here.
So what did they say?
Nothing. They just wanted, my girlfriend was like, don't talk to those Palladians there. You don't know what. And they turned a corner and they just vanished. So, and they had a dog. They had a dog with them too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they were, like 6'6", pale and tall, and like skin tight shirts and just extremely physically fit. I mean, it was obvious that they weren't quite human.
Right. Yeah, well, I've had some experiences where I'm seeing different people, but I haven't had a connection with any of those kinds of people.
Looks like someone's calling. Yeah, I was about to say it was open call, so let's answer this call and see what they have to say.
Okay.
Okay, caller, are you on the air? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hi. What's your name?
Is the current program taking calls?
Yes, we are. Did you have a question?
Is this live?
This is live.
Okay. I tuned in about a half an hour ago when I noticed that Suzanne Lie on the air.
Yes, she's with us. Yeah. Did you have a
question
for her?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank her really deeply for the blogs that she writes, and especially the one on the wounded ego that she wrote.
Oh, thank you very much.
About a month ago. There was a meditation on the end of that blog, and that meditation has really been helpful to me.
Oh.
You might remember me. I'm Don from Ellensburg, Washington. I've been on some of your webinars.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad to meet you again, even though I've never seen you, but I'll meet your consciousness again.
Well, you got up close to me. You were describing your meditation in the close to Mount Rainier, which is about 70 miles from here.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Anyway, I just wanted to, since I recognized your voice, I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am for those meditations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Don.
Bye.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, I like to mention out there, if you want to call in, or call in through Skype. A couple of people tried to call into the first hour, and I usually don't take calls in the first hour, but the second hour we do.
Okay.
So if you have any questions out there for Suzanne Lie. Actually, so let's talk about your practice, and he was mentioning that you do webinars.
Yes, I've been doing these. This was via the instruction of the Arcturians. And I guess about 3 months ago, October. Yeah, this is the second month. No, September. But it was a big process I had said to get 5-dimensional leaders. Okay, so I was like, all right, I don't know exactly what that means, but I do have access to a lot of people, so I just started inviting people. Would you like to be a part of this 5-dimensional leadership group? And they kind of said, what is it? And I kind of said, I don't know. It's a co-creation. We're going to figure out as we do it. So a lot of people said, yeah, that's great. And it was a big deal because we had to go back and forth. And at first I had 5 groups. I had 5 groups. And the groups were just kind of by time and area, and there's like people from all over the world. It's very interesting. And the first month had a lot to do with technology, learning the webinar, and kind of getting to know each other, and all of us kind of stumbling around of what are we doing, how are we going to do it, because the Arcturians just kind of said do it, and like, okay. We're graduate students now. We're getting ready to ascend, so we have to think for ourselves. And only thing I knew for sure is that it was a co-creation. And then this last month, the month after that, it started taking form, and we started. So there was the big group that we met in the webinar, and then everybody had their own smaller group of 15, 19, 20. And some of it was by area, and some people that they had to go by time because that was the time that they could do. And though they met in their individual groups, and some groups really met and really got closely intimate with each other, and some kind of struggled a little bit. But the other part of it was to create unity consciousness, because unity consciousness is what we really need for this process of ascension. And then this month, I have 4 webinars, and everyone is invited to all, and new people coming in. But we have been doing, now we're really getting to the meat of it, and we've been doing some really amazing groups where we're co-creating, like opening of portals and deep, intimate unity consciousness. It's really quite amazing. And I've taped some of the last month, and the first 2 for this month, taping didn't work. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe we're not supposed to tape this. Maybe you just, it's a co-creation. And so as we create something, it's kind of an infant for a while. We kind of have to protect it before we send it out into the world. So that's been a really interesting thing. And learning out what is a 5-dimensional leader. Kind of what I learned is that a 5-dimensional leader has to listen to your higher frequency of self. So listen to your higher state of consciousness, and take all leadership from that higher self, and to not allow any ego in. And that's what he was talking about, that releasing of the wounded ego, because I found that I was doubting myself. And so then the Arcturian just brought in this experience of releasing that wounded part of myself. And since then, I'm not doubting myself like that. It's amazing how these things work. And today we actually went through the Arcturian Corridor. That's something that we could do if we have time. If you want me to let the Arcturians come in and see what they have to say, or.
Oh, that would be great. We still have about a half an hour left. Is that enough time?
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
So now when I say I'm going to bring in the Arcturians, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's really helpful if you ask questions, if you want some kind of information or whatever, because then my ego can really just go back in the back room and, put my feet, relax.
Actually, before you bring in the Arcturians, the interesting thing is, yesterday was the big solar eclipse and apparently a galactic alignment. a lot of energies were coming in, and I was feeling it, and I was kind of convinced that the Arcturians were trying to talk to me because they knew I was going to do the show with you. So maybe we can find out if that was the truth.
It's down and out yesterday. I was afraid I was sick. I was so tired I could hardly move. But
Really?
the was right on a really powerful aspect on my astrology chart. So I wasn't surprised. I thought, oh, okay, I'm in for it now, you know.
Okay.
So I'm going to get myself in character here.
Okay.
Hello, Michael. We are very happy to be on your show today. Is there any particular questions you have of us or any particular experience that you would like us to share with your audience today?
Well, I'm just curious. Hello. If it was you guys trying to contact me yesterday during the galactic alignment.
We were absolutely contacting you and contacting others for the alignment of energies yesterday. We're creating an energy field that facilitated multidimensional counseling, multidimensional connecting. And we knew that Suzanne would be on your show, and we just wanted to introduce ourselves ahead of time. And what is it about our energy field that allowed you to know that it was us that was contacting you?
Just a inner feeling that it was coming from you guys. I'm not quite sure what you had anything to say. It just felt like a connection.
Yes, it was a connection. And the first connection is always such as a telephone. You'll call up and you will identify yourselves. And the other person will say, oh, hi, Michael, how are you today? Then you'll say, oh, hi, Sam, I'm just fine. And so that first part of any kind of interdimensional communication is that moment of the ascending ones. We used to call you the grounded ones, but now you are so ascending that we can only call you the ascending ones. But the first component of the ascending ones is to learn of their galactic family and begin to recognize, because humans have become quite addicted to their physical senses, to their sense of their physical vision and their physical hearing. And as you are all allowing your consciousness to traverse into higher and higher frequencies of reality, then you are going to be calling upon your clairaudience of your higher frequency hearing and your clairvoyance of your higher frequency vision and clairsentience, which is how you were feeling and identifying us, telepathy, and even precognition. For as your consciousness expands into the fifth dimensions, you begin to have an awareness of the illusion of time and the timelines and all of the different parallel, possible, simultaneous realities that are all occurring within the one of the now.
One of our listeners in chat's asking if you knew anything about the green orb lights that seem to be surrounding with UFO experiences, and what's the difference between like the red orbs or green orbs or white orbs?
The different orbs are resonating different frequencies of light. With our ships, very often there is not a colored orb, for we resonate beyond the frequency where it would translate to a visual light to the perception of the humans. And the red color is the lower frequency. However, if it appears to be a magenta color, that is one of the first colors that are moving into the spectrum of light beyond that physical spectrum. And green is the center. It is the center of that, of the spectrum. And it is a color of the heart and the color of Gaia. And the color green is very comforting and calming for Gaia and for the plant life of Gaia. It just feels like love. And the color red is revitalizing, and it feels like time to awaken. And so there are different messages that different colors have for those that are sensitive to the language of color.
What are the Arcturians trying to convey with the really intricate crop circles? I mean, how are we supposed to read them?
It is not so much that there is a specific way that you are supposed to read them. It is first that you acknowledge that something that is so impossible could be real. And as you recall, back before when the crop circles were new, that there was much speculation about who was doing them and were humans doing them and what did that mean. And the other thing is that we are teaching you light language, and if you remember, if you go back to the earlier crop circles, they were much more simplistic, and you see how now they have become more and more complicated and how they are progressing. And we are actually telling you, we are actually speaking to you in the crop circles, in written light language, and there are quite a few humans that are learning to read our messages quite well. So we are teaching you to learn to read light language, and some are needing that type of visual to learn light language. Others are, like Suzanne, are more inclined to feel it inside and translate it inside through her own beingness inside. And furthermore, the beings that are able to actually go to the crop circles and to actually sit in the crop circles and walk in the crop circles have experienced a great expansion of their consciousness from that experience. They found it to be quite enlightening. So it is also a gift.
Yes, that's how, when I look at some of these crop circles, it seems to be triggering some sort of memory. Like I've seen it before, I know what it is, but I can't quite grasp it. But, almost like a forgotten language.
Yes. For light language is not a language that is based on words, separate words lined up in a sequential fashion. Light language is more like cuneiform or hieroglyphics, where it is a symbol. And that symbol is a multidimensional symbol, in that you can look at that same symbol at different of your times within different of your states of consciousness, and according to the state of consciousness you will be able to receive more and more expanded versions of that light language. And for those that have closely studied the crop circles, they have seen how some of the crop circles were actually expanded versions of that, of a previous crop circle, where the storyline is there. You see that there is a form of a storyline, but you have to really trust your inner self in order to really translate it, which is when we have our landings, we can use different communicators to speak in your language, but that will not be able to answer many of your questions, because as you are introduced to a multidimensional reality where time is different, space is different, you're moving in and out of different dimensions, your thoughts and emotions become very immediately or instantly manifest. None of these concepts can be really understood through third dimensional thinking, and that is why we have given Suzanne the multi-dimensional operating system, which is based on the 97% DNA, which was turned off long ago, during, before, and after the fall of Atlantis. And the hemispheres were separated, for the misuse of power was so extreme on Atlantis that it was not safe for quite a while. Humanity had to come back from the mistakes that they had made. And now the higher frequencies of light that are coming from the galactic center are activating this DNA. The Russians have done a great deal of research. They have found that this DNA is light sensitive, but only to very high frequencies of light. And this 97% DNA will activate the rest of that brain power. For most humans have been operating with 5% of their brain, moving into 100% of their brain, and also the thinking brain matrix that is within the physical heart and within the high heart, which is not physical, but is within the aura above the physical heart. All of these will be sensitized more and more and will allow you to commune with us.
Now, I understand that this is a group mind I'm speaking to. Do you have a designation, a name that you go by, or?
We do not generally at this frequency that is communicating with you at this moment. We are one. We are Arcturians, or we are Arcturian, but we do not feel a need to individuate ourselves in the manner of having an individual name, for we do not perceive ourselves as individual. You do not have names for your different toes, your different fingers. They are your hand, they are your feet. So at this frequency, we do not have names other than the name of our heritage, of our star system from whence we first evolved. But actually, we didn't evolve from that star system. We came to that star system and evolved the star system, and then we left.
Could you tell us exactly what you do when you work with, say, the Galactic Federation?
We are in a manner, the word would perhaps be the president or the leader, but it is not hierarchical. So again, it is difficult. The Galactic Federation is not a hierarchical group. So it is not that any of us are better or more evolved than any other of us. We are like a puzzle that has been put together, and each piece might have a different piece of the puzzle, might have these pieces represent the tree in the puzzle, and this pieces represent the farmhouse in the puzzle, but we are the puzzle. But as Arcturians, we would say that we are the cohesive unit, in that we are, speaking of this and translating it into the third dimension is quite difficult. We are like the water that holds the drops of water. We know that does not make sense, but do you understand what we are saying?
I do. I understand. Could I request that you Arcturians enter my dreams tonight and tell me a few things?
Yes. You can request that, and the challenge is not the requesting. The challenge, of course, is the remembering. And so it is best that you prepare yourself to remember as you go to sleep, and prepare yourself for whatever alterations in your reality might come to pass as you gather this information. Do you understand what we are saying?
Yes, I do.
It is not always very comfortable to know the truth within your ascending reality, where there are still so many polarities. And sometimes knowing the truth makes it difficult to maintain your highest state of consciousness. Have you not found that to be true?
Yes.
Yes. You may also ask to come aboard our ship.
Oh, that would be great.
We are taking visitors, and there are many of you that are visiting our ships. However, many of you are not remembering it per se. Sometimes the memory comes in a code, and sometimes the memory is completely lost. Because if you were all to remember how easy it is to be with us, it would be very difficult to return to the extremely challenging task that you are all facing at this time. It would be like if you were at work and you were offered to go on vacation every night to the very favorite place of your life, and then 8 o'clock in the morning you get up and go to work. You would not want to go to work that next morning, would you?
Probably not.
You'd want to stay on vacation. So it is a challenge, and part of that challenge is allowing yourself to believe that it happened, even if you don't have the proof. And in fact, you have been on our ship before. You have been in the rejuvenation chamber. You might recall perhaps several times in your life that you were not feeling too good, either mentally, emotionally, or physically distraught, and then you woke up the next morning feeling very refreshed. And that is often because you were on the ship and you went into the rejuvenation chamber.
What is the rejuvenation chamber exactly?
The rejuvenation chamber is very often where the visitors come first. And it is important because if you come to a ship and you don't go to the rejuvenation center, which is, it's usually a room, and there are usually chairs, or sometimes there is like maybe you might lay down, but people go to the tanning rooms and they close the tanning thing. And what happens is it creates an alignment of your fifth-dimensional and beyond self with your fourth-dimensional night body. And so therefore, at least your night body is able to perceive more. Our ships are multidimensional in nature. And if you come on with just your fourth-dimensional consciousness, you will have a vastly different experience than if you are able to awaken to higher frequencies of your perception. However, to carry those perceptions back down into your physical world is the next challenge. For your brain has been trained to not perceive those higher frequencies, because if you did perceive them, then you would be crazy. Then there would be something wrong with you. Then you would be schizophrenic. And if you were to say that, you would be vastly punished. And for myriad incarnations, seers have been punished and murdered and burned at the stake and had horrible consequences of sharing the higher experiences that they have experienced. And so therefore, the genetic memory is often a problem where it says, no, do not remember this. It will complicate your life beyond words. So do you understand what we are saying?
Indeed I do.
Yes.
is actually we're almost up to the top of the hour, so maybe Susan can come back and I thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Are you back with us?
Yes.
Well, that was pretty fun.
Yes.
Except for the helicopter that flew really low above my house, which was kind of strange.
Oh, was it a black helicopter?
I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah.
I was talking about black helicopters last week.
Right. Oh, you were okay. Well, that's those helicopters very often they want to run uh, in between. My guess is that they have some kind of ELF, extremely low frequencies that they send to confuse people and to make them more malleable. There's been a lot. You probably talked about that last week. So
Yeah, we were speculating on whether some of these black helicopter things are more internal than external. That maybe they're making people think they're seeing them. However, my trees were swaying from the chopper blades, so I
right.
assumed to be real. Or maybe it was just a police copter. Who knows?
Right.
Strange timing.
That's a different thing, though. Those black helicopters are really black helicopters.
Right.
They're kind of all black. I don't know why they have to do that. It seems kind of silly, like the Men in Black type thing. But that's just a last ditch attempt. It's already happening. It's already in the work. It's already happening. It's proven it will happen. How, when, and where, that depends. What I've been getting basically from the Arcturians is that the Galactics would lovingly and happily be here right now knocking on our door, but it's the humans that are stopping it. And it's not just the Illuminati or the 1% or the bad guys. It's the huge percentage of the population still that absolutely is totally unable to embrace this concept at all and would be just straight up terrified. So there's a lot of the awakening ones that are, yes, we're here. But they don't want to create fear. That would be the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish. So,
yeah, and I think a lot of the people who are devotedly religious to whatever sex would have their reality.
Yes, and even a lot of people that are devotedly scientific, unless they're quantum physicists, and then that's different.
Right.
Quantum physics kind of like blends physics and metaphysics, So